All right, we'll go ahead and get started, and the room's open, so people are, I know that we've got quite a few that are going to probably pop on. We're glad to have Scott Talcott with us. He's the business development manager for Pinellas County, and one of the things that he and I talked about is kind of sharing with our business community things that are available that people might not know, services from the county and resources and things like that, to kind of bridge that gap between information and our business community. So Scott kind of made an overview that was part of the email and the schedule. So I'll just turn it over to you, Scott.
Great. Thank you very much, Doug, and everybody in the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce. We appreciate being a partner with you all. Today, we're lucky because I'm going to call them out early so they're aware. But we've got on the call a few people that will be referenced one way or another during this presentation. And one is Rebecca Kiker. Rebecca is with CareerSource Pinellas. She's my go-to person at CareerSource Pinellas. There she is. Wave to the crowd. So as we go through the slides, you'll see some stuff. And Rebecca, at any time, if you want to add or enhance what I say, because you can do nothing else but enhance it, feel free to do so. And then one of my colleagues, Kurt Forster, is actually in the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber offices this morning with that crew, and you'll hear several programs that we have through the SBDC program, which is the Small Business Development Center. And then in addition, I know we have Jake Prokop from Pinellas Technical College is on as well. So Jake, are you actually in the Oldsmar office as well?
Yes, I am.
See, traveling is good. So the first slide is, kind of exciting. What's important about the first slide to me is the fact that you do see the Pinellas County logo. Basically what that means is we are actually a county department. So we are structured as county government. Pinellas County Economic Development, where I work, is one of many departments, obviously, in the county. All right, so here's my first test on the slides. Let's see. And they don't want to move, but hang on, I will find a way. Bear with me just a sec. There we go. All right, so here is the team we've got. And again, we're made up of economic development. We've got some admin staff, and we've got our small business development center. In essence, basically what we do, what this says is basically that we help businesses try to increase the number of jobs, and at the same time try to increase the quality of those jobs. And quality can mean the types of positions, the skills needed, and or the salaries that they actually produce and have for those employees. It's very important to know too that in economic development, the premise that we have is basically a three-legged stool, which is that we attract companies from outside the state, ideally. We retain the companies we have because every day, and some of you may experience this, our companies are being requested to move to other states. And then we try to help the local companies that we have, which you guys make that up. We help you expand as best we can, whether that's footprint or workforce. That's really that's why we're here. It's what we do. And I'll try to give you some examples as we go through the different things that we do. There are several, we're juggling many different balls in the air at the same time on different programs that we have. So as I go through these, I'll try to share some real examples of those so you can see how they work. So again, we retain and help businesses to expand. How do we do that in particular? One is we try to help connect you with resources. I mentioned Rebecca Kiker with CareerSource Pinellas previously. If you're looking for workforce, they use one of my favorite four-letter words, free. So their services are free to you. If you're looking for employees, by all means, reach out to Rebecca. They have some interesting programs that in some cases, if the candidate is qualified, can actually help financially support you for selecting those particular candidates after they've been qualified. We facilitate new business startups. That kind of goes back towards where Kurt Forster works in the Small Business Development Center. And ideally for Kurt's group in the SBDC, and Kurt, correct me if I'm wrong, but really while you help startups, your bread and butter is really those who have already started their maybe second stage level, where they're really starting to try to grow, expand, maybe move out of a home type business or a incubator and ready to take that next step. Number of different services that they provide, and Kurt, by all means, jump in when we get to the SBDC slides to help make that even more compelling for folks. We do attract high wage primary employers as well. Recently, you saw an announcement in St. Petersburg for ARC Investments. That's a huge win for Pinellas County, and in that particular case for St. Petersburg. Really excited about that. That was not my project, that was my colleague, but boy, it's really great for the area, and actually it's really great for the whole region. Kurt's group also works with facilitating access to capital. So whether you're looking for some SBA funding of whatever kind, either for equipment, for potentially for your building or doing some expansions, that's one other thing that we try to do. Improve business climate, and that's an interesting one. We try to do that through multiple ways, but many of those ways that we try to do that is really through partnerships. And try to eliminate barriers that hold businesses back. One thing we know this very, very well, is companies and businesses do not have tolerance for risk. And risk usually comes in the form, well, sometimes comes in the form of speed to get decisions made. And so getting information timely and quickly to a business so that they can make proper decisions is critical. So, and in the government side, if we can accelerate processes, try to get you through permitting, et cetera, with the county, we do have expedited permitting. For the county, I can tell you with our building development and review services, it basically is the difference between being in one pile and a faster pile. We can't adjust you in the faster pile, but we can get you in one over the other. So, but all of that helps if it gets you to a decision quicker, or gets you to open your doors or get that CO quicker. Again, we foster partnerships to support businesses. We really are thrilled to have the kind of partnerships we have with Pinellas Technical College, with the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce, and with the other Tampa Bay manufacturing organizations and other industry organizations throughout Tampa Bay and even the state, whether it's the defense industry or the medical industry. We're very proud to have those partnerships. And our municipal partners, we can't do a lot without them as well. Identify, promote, and improve the Pinellas County sites for employers. What we're talking about there is actually real estate. So if you're one of those companies, I have a meeting this afternoon with a company in Oldsmar that has pretty much outgrown their site. They really want to stay in Oldsmar. And we're going to look at some interesting statistics in some of these slides that tell you how tight the market is for industrial properties and stuff, but they really want to stay there. And so we're going to try to see what we can do to help them do just that and keep them in Oldsmar if we can. Helping grow local companies. A lot of things in here. Kurt, there's a better slide that has a little bit more detail specific to Small Business Development Center, but that's Kurt's area of expertise. And I'll just say that while Kurt Forster is actually sitting literally in the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber offices, he and I have a meeting with a company directly after this, but Kurt is available and works out of many of the chamber offices for consulting. So if you're looking for someone to get advice from, et cetera, on either your business plan or some things coming up within your business, Kurt's there to try to help you go through those. A second program that they have is the SBE, which is the Small Business Enterprise Program, which really deals with trying to do business with Pinellas County and or some of the other municipalities. So that's a big program. There's really been a fantastic push by the SBDC to enhance that program and make sure that more of our companies, our smaller businesses, have an opportunity to work with and get contracts from Pinellas County and our municipalities. Business retention services. So That's something that I do. I love to go out and meet with companies to find out who you are, what you do, what you need, what can we do better to help you. Um, Part of my meeting this afternoon, working with a company that's trying to find additional and larger space, is doing just that, doing a retention visit to find out, are they taking advantage of sales tax exemptions? Are they looking for training grants? What are their needs? What are they, what are the things that are going to help them be able to grow and expand? It may be simply that they've forgotten that CareerSource Pinellas is there. So I always mention CareerSource Pinellas when I'm out talking with our companies. Rebecca, I was looking at your face when I was so I will say this in case I forget to mention it on the CareerSource Pinellas slide, because this particular bullet point that I'm about to mention is not on that slide. But one thing that CareerSource Pinellas also does, and they have a person dedicated to that, is veteran services. If you are a veteran-friendly company, they are there to help you try to find those individuals and do that. Again, we want to try to help our target industries. Target industries for us are those typically manufacturing is going to hit that every day of the week. Headquarter operations, financial organizations, insurance companies, those companies that are paying higher wage. And there's a list of them that I work directly with. I've got 4 different industry sectors specifically that I work with, and then connecting them with the incentives. Although I will say incentives aren't as robust as they once were. They kind of come and go. Research and data analytics, as you might need. I know the Oldsmar Chamber of Commerce and the city of Oldsmar have asked us to produce some data analytics for them on Oldsmar. You'll see some of those actually in the slides coming as well. Site selection, again, that's real estate. And then redevelopment expertise and programs, we actually have a manager of redevelopment now, which is great for us, so that we can try to help, because redevelopment is its own interesting entity. This slide here is going to be specific to Pinellas County. So we're not going to dive down into the Oldsmar stats yet, but you're actually going to see them on the slides here. The bottom line of what this is trying to basically tell you is while 13 million square feet of space in office sounds like a lot, it's old property. To only have 10% of Class A space in office isn't a high percentage, and 80% of those buildings are 40 years old. So they're not new. So it's a challenge for us. And you're going to see that's going to kind of come through these slides as our challenge, one of our challenges. As I pop through to the next one on industrial, it's not a lot dissimilar. So there again, we have 61 million. So it's very interesting. Look at the difference between the 13 million of office and the 61 million of industrial. It tells you that the county is very strong in the industrial space. There again, same numbers almost, which is interesting. What it really tells you is 40 years ago, we were building a lot of stuff, and it's old. So that means that redevelopment is really a way to go, or you just tear it down and start from scratch. And that's an interesting question, but good stats to look at. It is interesting. Now let's drop down a little bit more to home for all of us. 21 numbers. So here's some of these stats we were telling about data analytics. So population in Oldsmar, roughly about 14.6. You've got about 5,700 households. Median age is 42. And that's interesting because as we were pulling that, we were asking each other, hey, what do you think it is? I think I was aiming at 50 at least. So I was surprised it's a younger demographic. That's good for Oldsmar. That's really good. Median household income is much higher than the rest of the county. So that's kind of interesting. But here's the one I want to point out. Look at your daytime population at 20,000 versus your actual population at 14. That means you are, and you can see it underneath the observations, you are getting a lot of people coming into work in Oldsmar. That's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool stat. And then under that, you see that you're really pulling your weight very heavily for that daytime population, that workforce, but you're also really pulling your weight in the manufacturing jobs. And next slide, you're going to see a concentration of manufacturing throughout the county. And you'll see, you guys know where Oldsmar is. Can you guys see my cursor when I circle?
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
so, there's Oldsmar basically right in there. So that, I mean, you look at the whole county, that's a pretty big chunk for a population of 14,000 people, I mean, that's a big chunk for the size area you are. So I find that really cool. And I know Jerry Custon, who's on the call as well, he's known that for years, how strong Oldsmar is with manufacturing. So that's pretty cool info. This is where, and I'm just going to qualify these numbers. We literally go on to CoStar, which is commercial real estate database, and we literally draw by hand our boundaries. So depending on who's drawing it, and I've done this several times, you get these numbers. But the bottom line is it kind of gives you an idea of what's out there. So industrial in Oldsmar, you've got 3.7 million square feet. Now this is really interesting to me, 0.9 vacancy. The county average for vacancy right now in industrial is 2.2. That means Oldsmar really doesn't have a whole lot at all. So for my conversation this afternoon with my company, they're going to have to really be flexible to stay in Oldsmar. There's some places available, but if they want to buy, it's going to be really tough. There's almost nothing for sale that I've seen. And so sometimes what that amounts to is you got to go knock on doors. If you see a building you really, really like, you may actually just need to go talk to the owner and see if they're willing to sell. I mean, it comes down to that. There's 208 properties that make up that 3.7 million. You look at the office, it's the same way to look at it. Office vacancy, now this one I would asterisk and sort of say, that's one we're watching really closely with the remote working. We are seeing those trending up. So we're very, very curious to see how that's going to go moving forward. Multifamily, again, depending on how you draw the map. And I'll be honest, I know some of this does include some unincorporated areas, because if I use my circle, I think we went all the way out. So this is going to include, like Lockheed Martin is probably in the statistics and stuff like that, but it's still relative. These are definitely zip codes for Oldsmar as well. Multifamily units, you got 929, again, 3.7% vacancy. Inventory on everything, industrial, commercial, housing, it's tight. And then again, the retail market. So you can see the vacancy there as well. And again, the property counts to the far right represent the square footage or the units on the far left, just to qualify that. Industrial for Oldsmar is really still the key up there, being manufacturing being the one of the biggest. Pandemic, I mean, obviously hit food service, healthcare, bars, etc. I don't think Oldsmar is no different than anybody else. And again, the one industry that seemed to do all right, and I see Jason's on here, Jason Sanders, manufacturing did okay. I mean, they weren't robust, but of the industry sectors, they seemed to hold their own. But part of that is a lot of those folks work 6 feet apart anyway. So some of the rules and regs, they really didn't affect what they were doing. So I'm not going to read to you all of these, but I'll bring them closer to home just by simply saying that the top square, basically what top left is really talking about is we have very little green space. Pinellas County is a built out county, so it's very difficult to find available land. And so that's the prime. So these are some challenges we've got looking forward. Under that, in the blue square, what we're really talking about there is it's a hot industrial market. We just saw the vacancy rates and everything else. And we've got old inventory, we've got older buildings. And so those are challenges for us. Top right in the either orange or red, whichever way you want to look at that. Real estate's important to making decisions for economic development. However, I would always say this, and Rebecca will be thrilled to hear this, workforce is the #1 reason why companies relocate to any area in the country. #1, it's always workforce. If you don't have the workforce, they're not coming. And so that's going to be #1. It always has been #1 and will remain. But you still got to have space for them to be. So it does present challenges for us. And then the bottom right is really just talking about the actual cost of redevelopment. Redevelopment's expensive. So whether you take down an existing building and build from scratch, or you try to work with the building you have, that's question that you have to try to figure out. So here's an interesting program that we developed to try to deal with the cost of redevelopment. The county, Pinellas County came up with, out of the penny for money, came up with a program called the Employment Sites Program. We call it ESP. It's not extrasensory perception, but it is Employment Sites Program. And really what it is it's a program designed for either developers or business owners who are trying to increase their physical vertical space, if you will, and have identified a particular gap in trying to do so. For example, many of you may know how strict and challenging the stormwater retention pond code issues are in the county. So let's just say, for example, you have a property and you're not on a very large footprint and you want to expand. Well, there's parking codes that you have to have a certain number of parking per square feet, all that stuff. And let's just say that right now you're fine, but if you wanted to do your expansion, the county or the city is going to require you to put in stormwater retention. And you look at that and you say, well, if I do that, then I can't do my expansion because the parking would have to go where my new building is going to be or my new addition is going to be. This particular program, so there's other ways you can do retention ponds. So one way you can do it is you can create an underground vault. As you might imagine, that's about 2 or 3 times as expensive. There's the gap. So what the county says is, okay, what would it normally cost you to put a retention pond on if you had the space? It's X. And the cost, let's say, is 2 to 3 times X to do it underground, but that enables you to be able to do your addition. The county will actually pay through a grant. You have to apply for it, but they would actually offer you a grant, not a loan, to pay the difference in the cost of what it would normally cost if you had the space versus putting that retention pond underground in what they call an underground vault. So that's just an example of how that is. Developers are able to use this if they can identify gaps. So here's 3 projects that went through the first round of this funding program. And as you can see, the first one is actually up in Oldsmar, which is great. So this is a 130,000 one-story structure. It is an industrial structure that was applied for by the developer. I don't know specifically what the gap in funding was, but you can see the amount that it was close to $1 million. CMNY, I don't even know what that stands for, to be honest with you, but Transitions is another one that's in Pinellas Park. And you can see their funding request was 1.7 million. Again, a large building structure. Again, I'm assuming that's probably industrial, but I don't know that for sure. The third one I do know a little bit about. While the request was not high, that one is definitely for the defense industry. And for those of you who are as old as I am, if you're curious to know what a skiff is, I would explain it this way. If you remember the show Get Smart when we were kids, when the chief and Max would go into this room and you had that cone of silence. Now, Jerry Custon could probably tell you a lot more about this, but so if you went into a room, like the chief and Max went in the room, it got sealed, it was closed, but then this really strange umbrella, this transparent umbrella, like came over the table. And this is really a crude way to explain it, but they were in the cone of silence. So basically no transmissions other than what the Department of Defense wants to have take place in there take place. Your own electronics will not work in those kind of facilities, but they're meant for classified information to be discussed, shared, or seen, but they don't leave that room, basically. Jerry, did I hit it? Sort of?
Yep.
Cool.
That's where Nancy Pelosi
so the skip is interesting because right now, if you want to go use one, you pretty much have to go to MacDill Air Force Base. It's very difficult to get on the base right now, more so with the pandemic. And you can get booted out of there if a higher ranking officer wants to use that space. And so this particular usage is going to be shared, meaning that if you have the credentials to be able to use the space, you would be able to go in there, and it's not limited to just one company. It's sort of open-ended if you're qualified and approved to be able to use it. So that's kind of exciting. That's kind of cool.
And if I could, Scott, that top one, if it's who I think it is, it has afforded us the ability to keep a company that was busting at the seams in their property, and they're going to be, I think, occupying somewhere between 40 and 50,000 square feet of that 130,000 square feet. So we were able to keep them in Oldsmar. They got acquired by a huge company, and they were looking at moving out. But that, I think, if it's the project, I think it is, that's kept them in Oldsmar and Pinellas County, which is great.
And there you go. So there's retention at its best and expansion. And then the other piece to that it opens up is now you have their old building, which becomes available.
Right. We also have Sunbelt Staffing, who's again busting at the seams. They're a healthcare workforce provider, and they're busting at their seams. And I believe Nielsen over time has, with the COVID and things, has freed up a whole building. And I believe at the end of this year, beginning of this next year, they're going to be moving into that Nielsen space. So again, we kind of leapfrogged and kept them here, but also, as you said, their old space is now going to be available too. So that's two companies that we kept here.
Yep, that's beautiful. And I mean, that's doing it the right way. That is exactly, and those are good buildings. Those are nice buildings. Obviously the new one's going to be brand new, so that's going to be really cool.
Right.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's great intel on that. So in fall of 21, so Tampa Bay, this is interesting. Per LinkedIn, apparently, Tampa Bay is in the top 5 communities for worker relocation, which is kind of cool. We almost have 1 million people in Pinellas County. We're still close to that. But for the first time, our labor force is actually over 500,000. So that actually happened during the pandemic, believe it or not. So as crazy as workforce issues are, that's kind of interesting. The 4.2% for unemployment in Pinellas County is definitely lower than the nation. It's lower than the state, and it's lower than the region. And Rebecca, I don't know if you're nodding on that one, saying that's what you're hearing or that's what you see too. Again, these statistics, they do move, they do change as time goes on, but that's more challenging for businesses trying to hire. I mean, it means that all the job fairs and things that Rebecca's team over at CareerSource Pinellas is trying to do, take full advantage of them. Take advantage of anything you can. They're free. They don't cost you anything. And also work with PTech, work with SPC, work with any of the colleges you can to try to get those employees jobs. The challenge too is there are huge gaps in employment across the board. There's just no question about it. We know about healthcare, we know about manufacturing. There are groups really trying to tackle how you can address those issues better. Again, Jerry knows a lot more about the Tampa Bay Works project than I do in true detail, but that's a program set up to really try to get some commonly agreed upon entry-level skill sets that are a good starting point to try to fill those gaps. We all know that the hospitality industry, all you have to do is go out and have dinner or lunch somewhere and you'll see it. It's hard for those folks to find people. And sometimes you wait in line and you look inside and you realize the restaurant's it's got a third space just wide open, but they don't have the people to cover it. And so therein lies the issue. So we are seeing needs for workforce in every industry, but certainly manufacturing and healthcare we're in that situation, hard prior to COVID as well. The next slide. So the last piece to that, I'm sorry, I skipped over it, but 32% of the population has a bachelor's degree. I would go so far as to say, I think that's a statistic that's going to fall off the importance level, not, depending on what you're looking for if you're hiring. But what I'm getting at there is the certificate programs and the types of things that Jake is doing even at PTC. There are great careers you can jump into without a college degree. where you can get in, pay a lot less, not be in debt for a long, long time, pay it off and start your career and really get a decent salary doing some things that you really like doing. So,
I think if I could, Scott, to that point, one of the things that I think employers need to do is really, I think, visit that requirement, because I was having a discussion with my brother who's older than I am, and you can't even get past that question on if you're doing it online about bachelor's degree or a master's degree. You can't even get past it if you don't check that box. Which I've had a discussion with some people. It's like, okay, I have a bachelor's degree, but it was 30 years ago. How relevant is it? Just because I can check the box doesn't mean that I'm any less or more smart than somebody that, didn't get one. So that's where the employers need to really, I think, kind of visit the importance of that, requirement.
That's a great point. And really, what are the skills you really need and what's required to get to get you the person you need. So sometimes we're our own worst enemy potentially, because we make it too difficult to find someone. So
right.
That's a very good point. Just a slide to kind of point out that I don't know, many of you may have used this, hopefully, but Pinellas Cares was a local business grant that that helped a lot of our small businesses get through COVID. And so here's just some statistics on that, just so you can see how the output was finalized on that. But over 5,300 businesses were approved, 55 million was awarded, and in addition to that, 1.7 million through the state of Florida's bridge loans. And Kurt knows a lot about, actually, he knows more about that slide than I do, but those are just some sort of final stats on how that program worked for us. And there are still some programs available. Again, Kurt could probably tell you a lot more about these, but through the SBA, I believe all of these are still valid. Kurt, if you're in earshot, if you can.
The only one that's still valid is that first one, the EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan.
Okay, so the other three are gone?
Well, and the fourth one, where you say SBA debt relief, 7A and 504 loans,
those are always there.
Always running full time,
Right.
365 days of the year. So on. But the shuttered venue and the restaurant revitalization have both dried up.
Great. Okay, thank you for that. I will update our slides for future. Thank you so much, Kurt. Appreciate that. Like I said, Kurt is a huge wealth of information and knowledge, and he's a great guy too. Okay, PCED.org entrepreneurs. Again, here's where we really get into Kurt's bailiwick. And Kurt, if you want to walk through this, feel free to enhance it, or if you want me to just walk through it, I'll do it. But this is really in your bailiwick more than me, but I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm happy to.
No, I think you're doing great, Scott. It works great with the audio and your slides right in front of you. So go right ahead, and I'll just add if something needs to. Okay, a lot of pressure on me to do it right. So again, we have Pinellas County Economic Development. It does have two sides of the coin, but the Small Business Development Center is a really important part of what we do, and it's one of those resources you can regularly access. And again, for you guys here in the Upper Tampa Bay area, Kurt's your guy. He literally is on site and will meet with you literally at the chamber or wherever you guys deem. So online workshops. So you can find this at pced.org/workshops. A couple of different programs that are out there is how much is your company worth? And these programs do change year to year. Understanding business insurance, marketing strategies. Another program is the one-on-one consulting that we're talking about. You can look at government contracting, even financing your business, growth strategies. Again, Kurt and their team are really, really good at trying to help you get through these different programs and try to answer questions that you will run into. I mean, they can even, if you're literally in startup, they could at least tell you the different types of structures you could look at and what the pros and cons of those may be to give you the information you need to make that decision. The next slide really talks about small business enterprise, the SBE program. And again, this is the one for small businesses to be able to do business with the county and or other municipalities. This is a great success story for Ada, where she won a Pinellas County contract, which is really, really cool. And this was after Hurricane Irma. So, and I will say this, because I've seen Ada recently. Her business is doing great. So sometimes it's just a matter of getting the right contract to get started, and then it just rolls from there. Either you get other referrals through somewhere or another, but it's really, really cool. So really happy to see this program working well. And Kurt, I don't know the numbers, but I know it has grown since its inception. The amount of spend that the county is doing, because we're actually really tracking it closely, is mind-boggling how I mean, it's more than doubled or tripled, if I'm not mistaken. So in terms of when it started to where it is today. So it's a really great program. So if you're not in there, but you have a service that you think the government at the county level and or city level could use, by all means, reach out and find out more about the SBE program. And then this is coming up really quick. Kurt, I don't know if it's too late to jump into it, but again, it kind of ties into the SBE a little bit too, but it's the Pinellas County Reverse Trade Show and Matchmaker. Again, this is coming up tomorrow, but it does connect businesses with specific departments within the county, and it's also open to our cities as well. So it does have on this particular slide, and Doug, I think you're sending this out to folks.
Yeah.
It does have Yolanda's number on there, but you know,
Scott, they can go on the website at pced.org under workshops and register to be a part of this, and that'll get them a link to the Zoom call.
Okay, hopefully everybody heard that, but if you go to pced.org and then look for workshops, then you should find it. But again, a great opportunity there. And Rebecca, look, this is Career Source Pinellas. So Rebecca, correct me if I've got stuff out of whack here, but they do offer free employer services, job fairs. These can be on your site or hosted by Career Source Pinellas. They just did one in cooperation with SPC a couple of weeks ago. It was in our building. I can tell you it was really well attended, I thought. I thought it was really well done. They have a couple of programs. Again, these next two, on the job training, OJT, and paid work experience, PWE, are two programs that if your candidates qualify prior to getting a job offer or starting the job. Did you like that, Rebecca? Because they have to be qualified by Career Source Pinellas before they can start working for you. But those are two that actually may help you pay wages. So those are definitely two programs that are very, very interesting and well worth looking at. And Rebecca, I would say this, if you're okay with it, if in the chat you want to put your email so people can contact you, or number if you haven't done it already. Rebecca is an amazing resource. And if you're veteran friendly, she can connect you with Ahmed Amir, who is the Veteran Service Navy retired rep over at Career Source Pinellas. They do free job postings. They've got a workforce database, which is employflorida.com. I don't know if you guys still do the labor market statistics, but I think you might, but workforce recruitment is a big deal for them. So Rebecca, do you have anything else you want to add to that one? Nope. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for being on the call. It's great. And then Career Source Florida, which is sort of the parent to the other 24 Career Source programs throughout the state. For us, we have Career Source Pinellas. They offer two programs under the Florida Flex Training Program. One is the Incumbent Worker Training, IWT. The other is Quick Response Training, QRT. Incumbent Worker Training is a program that did change quite a bit over last year. It now prioritizes the order in which they approve grant requests. So it basically, the program will pay 50% match for training for any employees that have been with you for 6 months or longer. Those programs have to be in the CAPE funding program certification list. That's one thing that's a little different than in the past. And then quick response training, those are for companies that are hiring higher wage jobs. These would be in the neighborhood of say 65,000 or more. These wouldn't be jobs that necessarily have already been hired, but are going to be hired. And again, you can reach out to me on both of these programs, and I'm happy to help you navigate your way through those. I'm happy to do that. Again, there they have the workforce database is a statewide database called employflorida.com. And again, they do offer market statistics. And we can do that too, by the way, for your companies. Sometimes people are looking for specific positions and they're curious to know, well, what are the average wages in that position that are being hired for in my local, and for us, it'll be the Tampa Bay region, but what is the Tampa Bay region ranges for those positions? So it's very helpful to know if you're on the low side of the labor market, dollars, or if you're middle, or if you're at the high end. It's just kind of nice to know where you are in that realm. Veteransflorida.org is another training grant that is out there. Again, this is for veterans you may already have on your team, or they may be for new hires that you're going to bring onto your team that are veterans. Knowing the training grants as well as I do, I would say this is one of the more generous of the training grants. They will match 50% up to $8,000. So if you have a veteran that you're trying to get $16,000 worth of training for, they will match 50% up to $8,000. So they would pay for half of that. So that's as generous as any of the training grants that I know of that are out there. So that's kind of cool. They also have a state database to find workers as well, but you can find out more information about them on veteransflorida.org. As you can see, we know a lot of resources. So that's part of what we do, is try to connect you with those things that are out there. Speaking of connecting, that was a good segue to simply say that, here's our website, pced.org. You can also reach us at Pinellas Biz at Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And then we do produce a newsletter, and you are more than welcome to subscribe to that. Again, it's pc.org/subscribe. The number you see there is our general receptionist, but they can get you to whoever you need. And now you know that there's a Kurt and there's a Scott, so that helps you a little bit. Websites for help. We talked a little bit about some of these different organizations that are out there. A lot of these are internal to the Pinellas County Economic Development, particularly. The one that's not on there would be CareerSource Florida. It's literally the same as CareerSource Pinellas, but just careersourceflorida.com that you can go look at. Again, this is going to be emailed to you by Doug if it hasn't been already, because he's very efficient. And that's pretty much my song and dance. I know there's a lot going on in chat. I haven't looked at all at that, so I'm assuming there may be some questions in there. Oh, look, Rebecca, thank you for putting your info in there. That's cool. Let me
if anybody's, because I had the registration up for the Zoom call, but only a handful, and I see there's a lot more people on here than registered, so I don't have everybody's contact information. So if you want me to send you any of this information, put your name and email in the chat, and when this is done, I'll capture it and make sure that we get you some of this great information that's on there.
I see Michelle from TSE is on as well. That's great. That's awesome. I'm running through these through the back. Cool. And Jerry Kilty mentioned that he does provide Apex training as well, which is great. And API training. I'm going backwards, so excellent. Michelle's got some good comments in there too. Cool. I don't know about the MET program. Okay, that's Sydney, are you with SPC?
Yes, I am.
That's right. I met you at the Upper Tampa Bay Manufacturing Dinner. Thank you for being on the call. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the MET grant?
Sure. Well, I've been here, this is my 4th week. I'm freshly minted to Florida. So we have what's called the METT grant. It's offered to any employee within the St. Petersburg College service area, pretty big area. And the student can take 3 courses in electronics, electronic related courses, programmable logic controllers. They can get a industrial certification, take the class for that, and all that. The first 3 classes are free, and they get 1 free certification. And the grant goes through May of next year. And we're hoping that as many people as possible take advantage of it. It'll continue, but it won't necessarily be as free. So there's that 4-letter word you like, Scott.
I do.
It's free right now. And so people should jump on and take advantage of it. And I can get them linked up easily to the grant manager, who can schedule a meeting with anyone who's interested.
Sydney, can you put your contact in the chat as well? That would be great.
Sure.
So that way people.
But I'll put it in again.
Okay, thank you so much. And it's really great to have you here. For those of you who remember Laura Sharp, Sydney is in that position now. So glad to have you with us. Glad SPC filled it. So that's fantastic. Great. And thank you for sharing information about the grant.
Is my specialty is manufacturing. I'm a licensed professional engineer, and the specialty is manufacturing. So that is the slight difference between Laura and myself. Is I'm an electrical engineer, but I've spent my career prior to education in manufacturing companies. So.
Excellent. And I see one of our contacts from BLOC on as well. So it's good to have you with us as well. Thank you so much, Nicole. That's awesome.
Hi, nice to meet everyone.
BLOC is an awesome company, and I'm just going to plug them because I know a little bit about them. But you know, when you guys are flying on a jet plane, take a really good look at those jet engine blades. The blades, they make them better than they were originally made.
Yes, thank you.
And it really makes the original manufacturers very upset, and they keep trying to get them to go out there and say, well, they're not quite as good. No, they're not only as good, they're better. So they're made right there in Oldsmar, which is really cool. So thanks for all you guys are doing as well.
I can tell you an interesting story about that, about 20 years ancient, but I'm not going to. I may tell Nicole later.
Hey,
Cool.
Sydney, what campus are you on?
I'm on the Clearwater campus
Oh, great.
for in the CC building, the Collaboration Center.
Okay. Did you put your contact information up in the chat?
Yeah, he's got it twice. It's actually, one is right at the end. It'll be one of the newest ones, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Chuck, he's right on Drew Street. Right?
Yeah, I'm going to get hold of him.
Excellent.
Excellent.
I don't see any other questions unless I've missed something, but if you want, just open your mic and ask away. You've got Kurt, you've got Rebecca, you've got myself, you've got PTC, you've got Pinellas Technical College, you've got SPC, St. Pete College. So you've got good resources right on the call. Lucky for me. If not, I'll push it back to Doug and see if he's got any closing thoughts, closing remarks, or feel free to ask questions if you got.
Yeah, go ahead. Scott, this is Jerry. You know, I always look at economic development as 4 factors: the most efficient and effective use of land, labor, capital, and technology. In terms of what I heard here, in terms of land, Oldsmar in particular, the county is pretty good in terms of occupancy rates. That's the good news. The bad news is it's pretty full, and we don't have much place to go. So in terms of future, we got to really manage that very, very closely. In terms of labor, it sounds like we're pretty good here in Oldsmar with an increase in daytime population of 66%. So we're an attractor, and it sounds like from your statistics that countywide, we're pretty good in terms of age demographics as well as education level or knowledge level. So it would seem that in terms of attracting it, we're pretty good shape in that respect. On the capital side, we have a lot of incentives out there, and I really like that. This is what gave me the thought, is the cost of redevelopment. And it looks like you guys are looking ahead at the cost of redevelopment to figure out where we're going. So that's a good sign in terms of the county looking at efficient and effective. But the one thing we didn't talk about is the technology base. And do you have any comments on that, on where we're at and where we may be heading?
As an industry, you mean?
As a county sector, because technology really plays into many, many different sectors.
Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what your question's asking, you know, like in terms of how is the county using technology?
What are we doing to improve our forward thought on technology? And Sydney may be able to chime in on that in terms of the technology level and what we're doing to attract technology-based companies.
Okay, well, and that also kind of comes into skill sets too. So remember what we talked about, attraction is always about workforce. So I think that's where you're going. And so if you go back, I know that Jake mentioned that they are about to engage into a composite manufacturing. And I know that's primarily designed at one particular company, but if you think about it, there's a bunch of different composite types of materials you can use. Once you get the one process in place, it seems logical that you could mimic that and mirror that for the other industries that we also have that are similar to that, depending on the medium. But composite manufacturing is definitely an up and coming innovation technology that, again, some of our companies are already using, but there'll be more of it. But that training is very difficult to find anywhere in the country, really. It's not a common certificate program that's out there. So, and then, I know at the CC building where Sydney is, I know they've got robotics, and I see Sydney's off mic, so I'll let him go into that. But that's robotics is definitely an area that we want to keep pushing to. So
yeah,
Sydney?
I'm just saying, are we looking ahead at how to leverage all that as the change occurs, is leverage that technology base across the industry sectors?
Yeah, part of it's just getting the word out that we've got it.
Yeah. We're looking, we do have robotics here in the CC building. We've got rapid prototyping skills that we're working on developing for students. Always looking to hear what local employers need and want. I've got plenty of room. Some people may not agree with me, but I can make room for anything that anybody wants to develop or work on. So open to discussion. We have very good students. We've gone on tours this week at some of the local manufacturing companies, and I've been really impressed by the questions that the students ask. So definitely interested in promoting technology in the area.
I guess the other piece to that is, as the manufacturers and employers need technology, please let us know, but more importantly, let SPC, let PTech know what you need, what you're trying to do. That's how the composite training program that Jake's putting in, that's how that got started, was a company reached out and said, hey, how can we do it? And, to be honest, I mean, the PTC was in the best position to be able to do it the quickest. Again, risk for company is speed to market and how quickly they can get stuff. But look, our educational institutions, one of the things I love about Pinellas County and the Tampa Bay region is, and I told this to Sydney when I first met him, was this is a very collaborative area. Manufacturers love to help each other. Yes, you're competitive, but you're also cooperative. So cooperation is a great thing. So SPC, PTech, look, let's get them together. Let's work on what's the issue and who's best to handle it, and let's figure it out for you. So that's how things happen, is just opening up the communication box.
Break the silos.
Right, Jerry, you've said it for years, and you're right. And I think we've made a lot of progress. We've got a long way to go, but I mean, we've made a lot of progress, so that's good stuff. What else?
Any other questions from the Zoom?
Look
Some
at
great
Michelle.
Yeah, some great information and resources available, which is kind of, was the intent of this call, was to, if you're not on the call, we push it back out to our, our chamber community and our businesses to, know that, and it's what you just said, Scott, is to communicate that these things are available, so.
And the bottom line is we threw a lot at you today. And it's not uncommon for me to go through a lot of what I did with you guys today with companies that I meet on these retention visits. And one of the things I always say is there's only going to be so much you're going to absorb, probably little. The bottom line is just remember, you can call on us and ask us, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. Is there anything available? Just as simple as that. Hey, I'm trying to find workforce. I'm struggling. Just ask, and we'll point you in the right direction. So it's sometimes easier just to remember that one thing than try to remember everything else.
If I could add something, this is Jason with, I'm a owner for Express Oil Change and Tire Engineers. And I just want to say, I work with Rebecca from Career Source, Pinellas, and she does a phenomenal job getting you people. So just as a good resource and somebody that's actually using the resources, absolutely stellar, and we couldn't be more happy working with them. So,
way to go, Rebecca.
That cost you.
Well, I'll take my sponsorship where I can get them.
Rebecca, you're awesome.
Thanks, Michelle. I've got my own fan club here this morning.
Yes, you do.
Well, we appreciate being here. And like I said, we're a phone call, email away. Just holler at us if there's anything that we can do or answer, or something you come up with a question afterwards, by all means. I see a lot of great familiar faces. I see Greg Serio's on as well. Greg, good to talk with you the other day. So yeah, just good people out there. So thanks for being on, and yeah, thanks for being on, and thanks for letting us share some information with you.
Jason, our board chair is on. Jason, you have anything to add? You're part of the manufacturing sector. I see you got a full conference room there.
Yeah, it's just me flying solo this morning. No, just want to reiterate a lot of things that kind of been said. I mean, I've got to work with Scott, a lot in the last 6 months, really, and there are a lot of great resources out there. And I'm kind of the manufacturing representative when I'm dealing with Scott. There's a lot of great manufacturers out there as well, as you can see with Michelle and other people that are on the call. So just, don't be afraid to reach out and get together, and we're going to keep trying to pair the two. And, that's kind of our mission moving forward, is to get as much information as we can and make everybody as comfortable as we can with each other. So if we can keep up that communication and, like Jerry says, break down those silos, I think that we're at a good start, and we're going to keep pushing forward.
Awesome. Well, I sure appreciate your time, Scott, and I'll try and get as much of this information back out as we can. And I captured the videos, so we'll try and push that out to some people that weren't able to be on the call, because we do have a lot of manufacturers and businesses in need. And so I probably should shut up, because you need to get in your car and get over here. So
hey, I'm lucky. I got coverage. Kurt's there already, so we already got a good start. So and again, I would just say a big welcome to Sydney. Welcome to the area, my friend. I think you're from Ohio, if I remember correctly. It's good to have you with us. So
go Buckeyes. Kentucky.
I came from Kentucky, though.
Oh, okay,
well,
gotcha.
Well, never mind then. Never.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Scott.